Speaking of not logic, power. This might be a sympathy for the devil segment here. So there's a business relationship inside the intellectual dark web, and the market has changed. Several years ago, for all of their flaws, like being actually pretty practically bigoted in their approach towards Muslims. I'm sorry, I know that triggers people, but in terms of reality, they were. To, in Hitchens' case, who was by far the most fun and charismatic and best writer of all of them, being an ardent supporter of the entirety of the Bush-era global war machine, which killed literally over 1 million people and caused an unbelievable amount of harm. Slightly important stuff here. Maybe even slightly more important than like owning a rabbi in a debate at a college campus. Yeah, right. Excuse me. Yeah, right. Yeah, hey, the global war on terror, or
1 million views on YouTube.
Yeah, or 1 million views showing that Genesis is fucking stupid.
Dumb rabbi.
Yeah, dumb rabbi owned. Iman tries put in fucking logic chokeholds. But at least those days you had some, actual writing in Hitch, and you had some actual science in Dennett and Dawkins. And now Sam Harris, who was always, it's hard for me to imagine. I don't know if this is the case, but I almost feel like, he just called up and just like, my mom has an estate in LA that we can all stay at and film at. I've got stupid Golden Girls money. Can we pretend that I have a serious intellect? Is my comedic rendition and speculation about that relationship. And now, instead of batting up, Sam Harris isn't batting down. He's right in his league. He's with a bunch of sort of creepy pseudo-intellectual right-wingers that make up the IDW. And one of the themes here, with Ben Shapiro sort of being a little sort of child conservative novelty act of the Bush era that wanted more credit for being a virgin and is quite upfront in his religiosity. And of course, there's Jordan Peterson, who in addition to weeping and reading the top lines of ant studies, which he thinks validates social Darwinism, even though they don't, there's a really interesting sort of sympathy for religion now in the IDW. And of course, is a contradiction of, Mr. Rationality himself. This video just got dug up. I don't think this is going to have any impact on the business relationship with these people. And Richard Dawkins, for as much of a just absolute asshole he is on Twitter, and for all of the amount of dumb things he said about Islam in the Middle East, I think he actually has clearly the good sense to not associate with this sort of loathsome little gang, and has like an actual academic reputation that he can also rely on.
Him and Pinker are funny because they're sort of like outside the IDW pool, dipping their toes in occasionally when there's a safe retweet to do.
Right. They're just like, I think I can.
But they weren't anywhere near that camera in the woods that Barry Weiss.
Yeah, they don't want to be. They don't want to be stroking ficuses with Barry Weiss. And here is Jordan Peterson, from a couple years ago, adding to that IDW internal tension and looking very greasy.
Let's heighten the contradictions, everybody.
Heightening the contradictions.
Jordan, your thoughts?
I think it's a juvenile publicity stunt pulled off by people who really neither know about nor care about the actual issues.
Get off the fence and tell me what you really think. Really, no redeeming features whatsoever? You've heard Justin say it's actually kind of provoked a bit of discussion?
Well, I don't really regard atheists as an oppressed group personally. I don't think there's any real historical evidence for that, especially in North America and Europe.
Sorry, pause it. Okay, even I. There's no historical evidence for oppression of atheists. Atheists are still literally beheaded in Saudi Arabia and socially ostracized basically everywhere outside of the coastal United States. And as for historical evidence, I'll refer back to beheading. And also, Galileo, Catholic Church, stuff like that.
If you called someone an atheist, which was a fairly regular slur in like the 19th century, it was sort of, you were also calling them the devil or like demon possessed.
And there's still polls today of many Americans suggesting they wouldn't vote for atheists or secular humanists.
I wouldn't either.
They wouldn't well, obviously we can't vote for atheists because of these guys, but we could vote for secular humanists. So
Okay, yeah.
Jordan Peterson, as is his usual beat, is... So Sam Harris is totally historically illiterate, as witnessed by the fact that he pretty much literally never writes about anything that like predates maybe even the 1990s at most, most generously. And he favors random stats and his own thought experiments over actually occurring historical contingencies. Jordan Peterson, though, I kind of like the balls. He dips into history and then just like gives it the finger.
In North America and Europe, and at least recently, and I think the debate is going fine without this sort of stunt, and I think it's basically a media manipulation ploy. It's a good one.
Intrude in there, if I may. You say the discussion's going fine, but I think you're alluding to the Theist Club discussion. You see in the pages of our national papers that religious organizations are frequently invited to discuss issues of ethics, issues of the interplay between science and faith, issues of the reasonable accommodations of religion. You rarely see an atheist or a proclaimed secular humanist from an organization or not actually being invited to participate until relatively recently. So when you say that our country is becoming more pluralistic,
I didn't say that.
Well, you're saying that we're including more people in the discussion. I think you're ignoring the fact that atheists are not part of that discussion.
Look,
quite recently.
You've seen Dawkins, you've seen Hitchens, you've seen all these guys that write these books on atheism get massive amounts of media play. So it's not like they're excluded. If anything, they're dominant. So I don't buy that.
Starting about 3 years ago, that's correct.
What's that?
Richard Dawkins' book came out about 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah, so and it's got a perfectly fine perfectly fine reception.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's no evidence that he's being oppressed, even though maybe he should be.
I don't think I use the word.
I'm going to go with Jordan Peterson right for the wrong reasons. Okay? I think you can make a very solid case that all of those motherfuckers should be oppressed.
Is he sipping on whiskey in that too?
No, he's sipping on ice cold water because that's how crazy he is. He doesn't need alcohol to be this much of a nutcase.
I just want to
I gotta say, that twerp arguing for atheism is no prize himself. Like, wait, that was what you said. And no, that's not what I said. Let's be pedants together.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's my favorite part of any conversation with these guys, especially when it gets critical, is they'll all disavow any sort of characterization of their words.
Always.
Yeah, no, that's not what I said. I said a specific thing that I can't remember right now.
I'm in a headlong rush to disavow what I just said. But I got to say, almost analogous to Sam Harris talking about IQ and saying the entirety of history is irrelevant to the number, to sort of paraphrase the point, I have to say to look at the sweep of human history and say atheists weren't oppressed. That's
because Hitchens' book has sold well in the last 3
Hitchens
years.
and Dawkins' books have been selling well in the mid-aughts. That's a level of balls you got to respect.